Hello and welcome to another Random Code stream. This is part 7 of hopefully maybe one of the final ones. We'll see. For this issue I've been working on in Rocks, where we changed the naming structure to be a little bit smaller. Unfortunately, in the last stream we ran into a roadblock, and that has to do with naming collisions, because there is if I move up here, we're seeing that one of the types that we're running from the code generation tests has a property called instance. And that started to snowball into realizing that if we're putting everything on this generated expectations type, that could conflict easily with names that exist that we're already putting on the expectations type. It wouldn't be a lot, but it would be enough that we'd basically have to do a whole bunch of renaming of things. And that would get, it would become an utter mess. So I think we have a workaround. Let's get my music going here. The idea is to basically put a class around all the expectations we've moved into the expectation type called setup expectations, and all that stuff goes in there. And then we'll have one setups property on expectation. And then that gets rid of all naming conflicts. That should also, excuse me. It does still have now expectations.setups. So there's still one indirection that has to happen. But you can also do something like this. Let me sketch this out. You'll be able to do something like this. So if our expectations is equal to, if you're using the context, you can say context create anything, and then you can say var setups expectations setups, and here you can say setups dot do this expected call count of 2 setups dot name gets, or just say sets. So you're expecting that the name property, the setter, is going to be called with that value. And then you say var mock is equal to expectations dot instance mock dot do this mock dot name equals name. And then everything works from that point on. So you can capture it like this. If only we had the VB with expectations dot setups, and then we could put a block around here where that'd even be more code. This is one line of code. I thought of a way to maybe change create, that what it would do is it would return whatever the type of the setups. So you could do like a multi-return value here, and then do like expectations and setups like this. And then you wouldn't have to do this. And so it'd be a little bit less code. It's not ideal, but there's unfortunately no way to get around this. So the expectations type that we have, that is the house for everything. That has the mock on it, the adornments, the handlers, everything. So this is just another thing that it needs, the setups that you need as well. So, Mitch, who's been helping me out on this, I don't think he's on the stream right now, but he's been helping me out with rocks here, there, and everywhere. He said he's pretty busy these days, but he wanted to take a look at this later this weekend. And I said, that's fine, but I I unfortunately, not unfortunately, but I really need to get moving on this such that I feel like I can finish it off soon, because I have to get stuff done for a conference coming up in a couple of weeks. Make sure that I have all my demos working and everything so I can go down to the conference in Orlando and not have to think about, is this going to work or not? So yeah, it's something that I don't want to rush finishing this, but I also have to basically settle on something that I think will work. It will work reasonably well. So actually, the more I look at this, I kind of wonder, could you do something like this? Let's take some time using, what is that called? .NET Lab. And yes, I have heard of Sharp Lab IO, but that one started to become a little painful to use. So let's say we have a public class expectations. Okay. I don't need to save. I'm so used to saving. And the context that has a public, well, right now it's returning a T expectations, right? That's yeah, where T expectations is this. And what this does is returns a new. Stop trying to save, Jason. It's hilarious. Okay. Now on our expectations class, what we'd have is a public seal class, my expectations, and that derives from expectations. This is the code that we're generating. Okay. And so what we want here now is a public sealed class setups. Expectations. I think that's what I said. Yeah. Now this isn't derived from anything. Okay. And then this has a public setups, expectation setups. I can't get past the muscle memory of trying to save. Except the idea would be expectations would have a T setups. Where it's constrained to have a new. Okay. Yeah, we need to put that there. Now, when we say create here, expectations needs a T setups. But we don't have that here. Yeah, so T setups must be a non-abstract type. I think the problem here yeah, that doesn't work either. Yeah, I don't think there's a way to get this to come out such that you could have it would be nice if we could. Yeah, that doesn't work either. T subs must be a non-abstract type. Do we also have to say here where T setups? Oh. But the problem is, okay, this may work. Gotta do some moving around. Okay, so that all works. The problem becomes is when you want to use this. So if I say var context is equal to new context and I say var expectations setups is I can't say here context create my expectations. It's going to bark because it's going to say, well, I don't know what the second type argument is. Which is unfortunate. We need this to be, because this is always going to be part of the expectations. So yeah, this is where it falls apart. Is you now have to, if you're calling this, you need to know what that is, and that kind of stinks. So unfortunately, we're going to still do this because this is what we need, but we can't change the expectation stuff in some way such that you could get this so that it could give you the 2 back. And in honesty, that also feels a little weird. That feels a little strange to have it bring back 2 where 1 is a member of the other. There's something, I shouldn't have closed that. .NET Lab. What I wanted to do something like, because I don't think this is what we want to do. Because I believe this is going to give us... Yeah, what we want is private read-only. Yeah, that's what we want. We want the setups to be the same object every single time. So we can do this, but we have to set the field equal to a new version of that. So, okay. Okay, so let's do it. And this also gets rid of method expectations having to know, or property expectations for that case having to know whether it's a this or this parent. They're always going to be this parent because the setups is going to take a reference to the this, and that is going to be a parent. So what we want to do is start off with something like this. Setups expectations. This won't collide. Again, this is not going to collide. We do want a reference to the parent. And we will take a reference to the parent when we're created. Yeah. Now what we also want is a private read-only expectations fully qualified name dot setups expectations setups. And this can be equal to a new of one of those, this. Okay. So this is going on the expectations. So, and we can take this off because there's going to be no expectation source. And then we do want to do indent. Come on, writer, down indent plus plus. And then we want to have something down here that's like this, except closing off that. And so here, what we need is setups. No, we need a expectations setups. And what this does is it returns this dot setups. There. And then that gets rid of that. And now none of these need to take an expectation source. I believe. Because they should always be this step parent. So we don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. Because all these are always going to be this step parent. I think there's a part of me that's saying maybe this isn't true, but I think this is true. Okay, so that does that one. And now I need properties. I'm telling you right now, this is the last time I'm going to do any API changes on rocks unless I absolutely have to. See, now this will always be this step parent. Because they all just keep trickling the root object as a reference into each other. That's right, because when we get to the point of building expectations, it doesn't care about yeah, it's always using is parent. Okay. All right, I think that should take care of it. Now, there's been a couple of tests that I've changed. I haven't changed all the unit tests. Well, let's just see if this builds first. Yes, it does. Okay, so now I need to find the tests. That I've already done. No, I just want it in the selection here. There. I'm not as fluent in VS Code bindings as I am. So what I want to do is I want to find now which tests I can pick up on that I've already changed over. I think this is one of them. So we can say method generator. I think there was a property one as well, right? Yeah. So what I want to do is rerun these and see if this all works. Isn't there also a explicit example? Yes. Because these are all the, yeah, so it's, I can't remember if I changed any more in here. Yeah, I can tell fairly quickly because of where the expectations get generated. Okay, this one as well. I should have done this as I was doing all these changes, but I just did not. Okay, I didn't do that one either. And I did not do this one yet either. Okay, that's fine. So let's go through these tests and generate async and see if what I did is going to work. I am not looking forward to the hours of time it's going to take to change all these tests over. It's going to be a lot of time. Which is why I just said I do not want to redo or refactor this again. This is pretty much the way it's going to stay for time eternal. Unless Mitch comes up with a better way. All right, so remember, create expectations. We now create a private type. I'm sorry, not a private type, an internal seal type. Where we have a field and it takes the parent. It has the exists on it. And so now in expectations we have setups. So all the stuff that we were doing before is just basically moved up into another type. And then the rest of this is the same. Ooh, that failed. Why did that fail? Keyword this not available in current context. Oh, I think I know what the problem is. So 19. $19,646. Yeah. So you can't say this here. What we need to do is have a constructor yeah. Okay. This is why we write tests for the billionth time. I don't know how many times I can say this. So what we want here... Wait a minute. Oh, okay, hold on. We need to be up a step. Set of expectations needs to get a reference to the parent. On its constructor, it does this. This is a field. And we say setups, it's this setups. Okay. Somewhere in here, we're just saying, yeah, create new expectations. And in here, this is where we need to say, you got to set the setups field. This.setups is equal to new this. That's where it needs to go. I just have to figure out where in the hell in my code I do this. Here. So here we say public expectation types, no members. Except here now, what we want to say is this dot setups is equal to new this. Okay, I think that should now do the right thing. So we have our setups expectations, we have setups. We actually define the type. It's taking the parent. Setups will always return this setups. And then on the constructor builder, we say this setups is new this. The this is now going to pass in the expectations. Which we have set up a constructor for here. That ain't confusing at all, is it? Okay, so now we have our field, we have the class, we have the property here that's going to return the instance of this. And then eventually down here, now we say yes. Boom. That's what we wanted. Okay. So that's done. So just give me about 10 minutes while I make sure all this code that gets changed over actually works correctly. Yeah, that's the one I wanted. Yep, that passed now too. Okay, I think we're getting to the point where we know that this is going to be good. Let me go to property generator tests. And see if this works. Ooh, that failed. That's not good. Why did it fail? The type name. Oh. Yeah. Because they're all within setup expectations now. Okay. But this needs to say setup expectations dot. So this should say setup expectations. But this is still correct. Okay, so there's one spot. This is when we're generating properties. Go to, no, not, I'm sorry, not the where. This. Now we always get a new one, and the reason we get new ones here is because we want to be able to say you're setting up a new expectation here. I just realized something. It should show up with explicits, but with explicit properties, wait, what? Ah, because yeah, I was wondering, okay, so that will actually work. The second one is if you have explicits. I think that might break with methods though. Because we don't have a test for explicit methods. But never mind, this should now be setups expectations. Actually, no, that's wrong. I think this needs to say setups expectations here. And then that should work. But. Wait a minute. No. That, no. Okay. This still here needs to be there. I'm not convinced why method expectations works. Mostly because we haven't gotten to now that passes. Okay. So setups, we generate the properties, the getters and the setters, except now we need to put that there. Let's jump right to a explicit test, because I have the feeling this is not going to be correct. Okay, so do the parent. Now we need an explicit for. Yeah, see, that's incorrect. I can tell already. We still get a parent. That's fine. We can do the parent. All this stuff is fine in that. It's just a setup, except here, what we need this to be is setups expectations. Then the scoping will be correct. So I think it's the same thing that we just saw with but Yeah, so, okay. Right, here is where we do that. Okay. So now if we come back to this test, it should work. Nope. $75. Okay, what's the problem here? Cannot convert from I left right create expectations, set up expectations to I left to right create expectations. What? Says it's line 43, 32. 5, 7. Oh. Yeah, it's not this, it's this parent. I think I just got lucky. That should have actually been. Yeah. Because we didn't have this here before. And so this was was under the expectations. So we could say this before. Okay. Now it passes. Okay. Which one was this? Let's do this one. And get the code for it. This stuff is some tricky stuff. And it also passes. Let's do some default value ones, just because. Okay, that passed. Let's just do positive infinity, because why not? Let's do a positive. Okay, so I think we now have everything solved. I don't like some of the spacing here, but I should make a note of the spacing because I'm going to get back to that. Yeah, I already have that as something marked. Excuse me. Okay. I don't like that we have a line here. It just doesn't look neat. It should say something like, if you're the last member being generated in this, then don't put the right line. But I like for each loops. It's the thing with for each and for. You know? Oh well. Okay. So let's go to the code generation tests. So I think we can test with types again, and I think we only have a partial set. Yeah, so let's run this. This is what brought up the issue in the first place. Because one of these brought up where we were starting to have naming collisions. And quite frankly, my God, I'm glad that this showed up. Because otherwise, even with all the tests that we have in rocks, it may not have caught it. So I feel very fortunate that we saw this now rather than in the future. Because it would have caused a whole bunch of rework and another major version breaking change to get around it. Huh. I guess those benchmark.net spells analyzers with a S, not a Z. Must be a culture thing. I don't know where the people that mostly wrote benchmark.net are from, but in English, at least the way I was learning how to spell it is with a Z. So takes a little bit of time to get through all this, so. All right, they all pass. That's a good sign because we were getting one to fail. Now, let's, why not? This doesn't prove that everything works. But I'm going to let this run on all the libraries that we currently have available and just see if there's things that are going to break that I did not expect. Which I would not be surprised if this happens. But let's see if we find any more. So this is going to take probably another 5 minutes to run and get through. So anybody know any good movies? Good books to read? I've been reading, I forget the author's name. I think it's both the first name and last name start with A. I think it's like I can't remember. It's called Within These Walls. And I'm not through it just yet, so I got to hold reservation on what I think about it. But so far, I picked a bunch of horror books that are from my library, my internal library of my house, to read over October. And I've only gotten through this first one because I was finishing another book. So I'm going to try to read the rest of the stack of the horror books that I have as soon as I can. But so far it's going well. I'm kind of interested to see where this is going to go, like what the hook line is going to be. There was a book that I read earlier this year that was a horror story, and it started off fantastically well, really, really good, and then it just kind of went nowhere. It didn't seem to hold that punch of the writing that the first 100 pages had. So I also finished a trilogy. I won't say the author's name, a sci-fi trilogy that I think the author has promise. I've read another series by them before, and it's kind of the same thing. I feel like the writing is good. I feel like there's a potential for a really good world building and storyline, but it's not all there just yet. And then I'm holding back on saying the author's name because I don't want to criticize them. I've written tech books, and I just know how hard it is to do that. And so I don't want to criticize somebody too much because it's at some level it's personal preference and choice. Some authors you really like, and some you just kind of go, it doesn't. A friend of mine recommended a different author to me, and as my want, I end up buying a lot of books from them without getting to read them. I started reading books by that author, just did not click. It really, really just, and it's somebody pretty well known, it just didn't work for me. This author with this trilogy, it just felt like things in the third book, it just felt like things just kind of popped up out of nowhere and got kind of rushed, and it really didn't, it didn't feel like the author could figure out where to go with the third book, if that makes sense. So that's why I'm kind of holding reservation on this one. The writing is still, with this horror book I'm reading, it's good. I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through it, so I'm like, something's going to kick off pretty soon. I will admit, even though this is feeling like it's kind of in the supernatural ghost thing, which I just don't believe in, and I find that, like, I'd rather read horror novels that are grounded in, like, just, it just sounds weird, but awful things that people just do, because that's at least realistic. If you start throwing in supernatural ghost stuff, then it's like anything can happen, you know. And why are the ghosts taking so long to get to the point? That's the other thing that's always driven me nuts. Why does it take so long for them? It's like, you can move tables if you can turn pictures upside down. Just get to the possession, for God's sakes. As weird as that sounds, that's kind of what I feel like when I read these books. But again, it's like if it's a good just story, then I'm willing to go through it. All right, we're getting near the end. Let's see if we get a sea of red. And if we do, then that's fine. That means our code generation is still needing of work, and that's fine. That's why this project is here, is because it shows what we've missed. Well, that ain't good. We got some work to do. And unfortunately, it's not all the same. Oh, I think, well, with this one, I can already tell what it is, I believe. But we would have seen that with the current approach. I think what this is that it's something that needs, yeah, this is going to be a problem. But again, how did we get around this before? I have the feeling that what this is that there's two types that have different generic parameters, but they have the same name, type name. And so we generate explicit for XYZ, and we're doing it twice. And so it's the same type name, and so it can't disambiguate between the two. And I'm guessing, this is just a guess, but I'm guessing most of these are all related because you don't have this, you don't have a differentiation between things, and so it gets like yeah. I don't know how this works though. Why this works with our current approach, why we don't see this. I have the feeling these are all related, but I don't know how to get around it. And I'm kind of near the end of my time. There's a part of me that's getting to the point where I'm really starting to question whether this whole idea is even feasible. I know Mitch wouldn't like to hear that, but maybe this is something solvable, but this is something that I made a note of. I put it here. How do we disambiguate between two interfaces that have the same name, even fully qualified? Or just two... or two interfaces that have the same name but different type parameter counts. So that's a problem, but that's got to be a problem for another time because I don't have time to get into this. So I think what I'm going to do is take one of these. Oh, I just closed the window. Oh well. I'll rerun it, pick one of them, and see if I can figure out what the issue is. Because, again, I think I know why it's happening, but I don't know if it is happening the way it is happening, the way I think it's happening. I think we have a big problem because I don't know how to get around it. But these all work currently, so there's got to be something with the way it works now that gets around the problem, and I don't know what that is. So that's going to be for another time, another broadcast, so to speak. Because yeah, I gotta get to my day job. But hopefully I can figure this out. Hopefully I can figure out a workaround. But if I can't, I think I might be at the end of my rope and saying all this work was for nothing. And I hate to sound dramatic that way because that's not my intention. But if I can't get this to do what I want it to do, because I'm just going to keep running into conflicts with namings and stuff like that, then it's kind of like, what I have works, and it's just, we're just going to have to live with that for time eternal. And that's just the way it's going to be. And it sounds, I don't want to say it's all for naught because I did learn a whole bunch of stuff. I was kind of hoping that this would work, but at the end of the day, all of it has to quote unquote work. And if it doesn't, without it getting really convoluted, then yeah. In any event, I'm going to end the episode here. I want to thank everybody who's been watching either now or in the future. If you haven't subscribed to the channel just yet, please do so. I would greatly appreciate it. If you've already subscribed, I appreciate you. I'm going to be doing a stream this afternoon around 4:30ish to play more Silksong. I may do a coding stream this weekend. I don't know. We'll see where I get with this. But for now, I am done with this stream. Thank you all for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you in the future.